Welcome back to another episode of All Over Voiceover with Kif VH. I am Kif VH, and with me in studio today is the lovely, the talented David Sobolov. David, thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, how you doing?
Good
to be here. Let me start with what I always do. Don't want to have people think I'm crying. It's Sobolov.
Is it Sobolov?
Yeah.
Sobolov.
Yeah.
I don't know why I go with the sob.
I mean, the first three letters are already SOB. So I have to just get people. Well, it's a made-up name. My grandfather came to Ellis Island, and they didn't know what he was saying.
So they
put all those O's in there. SOBOLOV. That's not real.
Really?
They made that up.
What's the family
U.S.
name?
government.
Do you have any idea?
Probably Sobolov. But it's Sobolov now.
Well, there you go. Well, I'm Vandenheuvel, which I think is Dutch for from the hills.
Mm-hmm.
But
were you a New Yorker? I mean, was your family like from the old, New Amsterdam?
Yes, my grandfather came over, I think, when he was 18, and he went to Canada and was a jockey for a while.
Okay,
and then came down into. He got a letter from his father in the Netherlands who said, "What are you doing messing around with horses? You said you wanted to leave to go do something with your life. You should go." So he went to West Michigan, and that's where he met the rest of our sort of Dutch people.
And back then, when parents told you to do something, you did it.
You did it. That's right.
These days, nope.
Not so much.
Like, did my dad want me to be an actor? Oh, no.
Did you battle that when you were growing up?
It wasn't a battle. They let us do what we wanted to do, but he was, not happy about it. He would have rather I'd been, a doctor, or lawyer kind of thing. He grew up in the Bronx in the 1930s, so he had a very different way of looking at the world. Practical.
Did you stay? Were you raised in? You were raised in Canada, right?
I was raised in Windsor, Ontario. Born and raised in South Detroit. We were saying earlier.
Right.
Yeah, if anybody out there, if you ever hear that song, "Born and raised in South Detroit," there is no South Detroit. That's Canada.
There is, however, a midnight train to anywhere.
That's true.
Which I didn't know.
Yeah, yeah. And da-da-da-da-da in Winslow, Arizona, that song?
Oh, yeah.
I went to Winslow, Arizona a year ago, just kind of, I was in the neighborhood. I just wanted to see it. That song actually took place in Flagstaff.
In Flagstaff?
But Winslow sounded better.
That's crazy. So your folks moved from New York and, no.
No, that was that was generation before. Well, yeah, he grew up there. My dad worked for Hiram Walker's liquor company.
Okay.
And he was the master chemist during the Mad Men days. He made up all the flavors, all the stuff that they would be drinking.
Oh, wow.
He was the guy. Marketing would say Murray was his name. Murray, we need like a cherry cheese liqueur, like bizarre weirdness. And he would go and make it work chemically.
That's wild.
Yeah. He had a little lab by his office, and one day he brought something home, and he said, "David, if you knew what was in here, you'd never drink again." Because they don't have to tell the ingredients.
They don't have to tell the ingredients.
I think even today they don't have to say what the ingredients are in liquor.
Really?
Yeah. He said there's 47 ingredients in here. Well, you got to stabilize everything.
Yeah.
And it's not going to taste like cherry anymore once you throw alcohol in, so you got to put that back in. And yeah, but I was too young to drink, so I never got to try any of the stuff back then.
Now, so when you decided that you wanted to pursue acting, was it you mentioned that you had studied the French horn first? Yes?
Yeah, I was in music school in British Columbia, and somebody started telling me about the neighborhood playhouse because I wanted to get into acting. Well, in my town, there was really nothing to do acting wise. So I just got into music.
Yeah.
Which my mother was a swing singer in the 40s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that kind of got me interested in music. But I ended up in Vancouver, and then I heard about the neighborhood playhouse. Like, this is my chance. I can do something. Yeah. And I went to New York and interviewed, and they took me in. That's where Sanford Meisner was teaching.
Yeah.
So I jumped in the acting thing.
Oh, man.
I'd done some like student films and stuff back in British Columbia, but I really didn't get into it. Well, just before I went to New York for Neighborhood Playhouse, I went to something called the Banff School of Fine Arts.
Okay.
Which, some people have heard of. Kind of like an idyllic, beautiful, like mountain landscape, a good place to kind of start my whole acting career.
Awesome.
Yeah. So it was very fostering kind of thing. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was just starting out.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
That's right. And then you go to New York and study with Sanford Meisner.
Yes.
And you're 19 at the time. Mm-hmm. What's that like coming into it as you're like, and you've had a little bit of training, but to go
much.
from not much to Meisner as your first legit teacher. What's that experience like for you?
I guess baptism by fire. That's kind of a way to put it. When New York was a very different place back then. This was 1984.
Okay.
And it was really gritty, really dangerous.
Yeah.
And you could be a bohemian kind of actor, living in New York and not struggling. It didn't cost much. I think my apartment cost like $400 a month.
Oh, man.
Shared, but still.
Yeah.
So it was more than you weren't worrying about money like you would be today.
Yeah.
And he was always encouraged us to go out on the street and do our characters on the street, which you probably get arrested for now. But back then, no problem. Because everybody was crazy on the street in New York. Now, Meisner was a great influence on me. He still is. It taught me a lot about the fact that when you, especially doing these voice characters, and you talked about this with Chris Cox, the center of it is reality. You know, no matter what kind of crazy, wacky icing you have on the top, you still have to believe what's going on. The story has to be told, and I have to buy that they're in that situation and that they're that person that they're portraying. Yeah. And Meisner really taught me how to do that. I think I still use it today. It's helped me a lot.
Is that the core of your process?
Yeah. Because I'm an actor. I always end up having debate about this. People go, well, okay, you're a voice actor. What kind of real acting have you done? Like, that's real acting.
That's real acting.
That's actually harder because everything's in your head. Everything
is in your head, and you're creating that reality surrounding you with your stuff piped back into your ears on top of that. I've heard that expression too, where people refer to voice actors as head talkers or mic talkers, and that.
Well,
kind
they
of
think
stuff.
you're doing. Well, I did a talk show last week. I'm doing a lot of media lately, and she said, "How did you come up with the voice for Drax?" I said, "I don't have a voice for Drax. I was playing him, and the voice came out of that." Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people that have, a bucket of voices, or they come up with a wacky, crazy idea, and then they go kind of into the reality from there. But I approach it the opposite direction.
I think that's a much more. Not only a more interesting way to create a character, but it solves problems for you that you'll run into if you come from an external place.
Also, the problem that it solves is me not copying what's happened before, because I'm playing a lot of Marvel characters, DC characters, iconic characters. I'm very lucky to be able to have these, as jobs. Yeah. And I can't sound like the guy that they had 20 years ago. They don't want that. It's a new producer. It's a new, sometimes canon. And if I have that in my head, it's going to be hard to get it out. So I just develop the characters. If it's a brand new character, and also like if I'm playing creatures, there's another aside. Yeah. You don't play the creature, you play the humanity in the creature. So Grodd, for instance, on the Flash that I play, there's a lot of sadness in him because I figure, okay, if he's lonely, if he's all by himself as a creature, he doesn't even know where he came from. Yeah. There's going to be a little bit of little angst, a little sadness, at least for now. Those that have caught up on the series know he's probably never going to trust a human again after what's happened to him. But for now, I've played a lot of different levels. I think it's going to get a little angrier in the future.
Very cool. Well, that's interesting too. Changing the way I'm thinking about creature work, because I'm in the middle of trying to produce a creature reel. I've been in the middle of trying to produce a creature reel for a long time, and not really knowing how to do it other than just I'm going to try to make an animal voice or try to get, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I did a show called Kaijuda that nobody saw on the Hub that nobody saw. That network was on for 4 years and then was gone. Hasbro Network. And they said they cast me because I was the only one that didn't do a voice.
Wow.
I was the only one out of like 100 submissions. Because I found, I mean, you really shouldn't call it humanity because they're not human. But, emotional life.
Or the emotional life or the relatability of that character or that creature.
Because why do we care about these creatures? There has to be something in them that makes them sympathetic or makes us love to hate them or something. Yeah. And that comes from human aspects.
Our empathy is what drives that connection, whether you're watching a cat video or whether you're trying to get killer whales set free from SeaWorld. There's
our last episode of Grodd. We went back at the last minute, a week before it aired, and redid a bunch of stuff. Wow. Because Greg Berlanti felt that it was too sympathetic. You can't have the Flash looking like an animal abuser, and Grodd is a villain. Grodd is ultimately a villain. Yeah. And he has to be somebody that you fear and, you maybe don't like that much.
That's right. Otherwise Flash is going to sonic punch this animal. It's really kind of horrible. I understand.
And they'll get cards and letters.
That's right. Well, how sentient do you make a character like that in terms of, it has to be like a step above Coco. You know what I mean?
Well, he's evolving, so it's changing every episode. And that's another interesting, subtle thing, too. You look at what they've written and how has that indicated how much more intelligent he is. And I have to take another step then. Wow. He still speaks in very short phrases, but I have a feeling that's going to change. It's just a gut feeling. I have for sure I don't know.
No spoilers or anything like that, but just seeing that trend emerging and where they kind of need to take the character.
And I'm also like, again, it's like this business – there are people listening. There are thousands of people around the world that wish they got to do what we got to do. And I really am very grateful, that I ended up here. How did I end up here? We were talking about this earlier. Yeah. I'm sitting at home in Windsor, Ontario, watching the Rose Bowl parade. I didn't think I'd ever even set foot in California, let alone, be here working.
Yeah.
So I kind of, I try to take a moment to appreciate my life every day.
What is your, what helped you make that transition? After studying at the Playhouse and all those things from New York, and was LA a primary goal when you began to see that as a possibility, or did your path wind its way into the Hollywood sign?
It wound its way, is that what you say? It winded
I don't know
its
what
way.
It wound its way.
Or
was it a straight, it's just a straight shot out 80-90?
I only wanted to be where I felt like I was home. And I never really felt that until I came to LA. So then I knew I was in the right place. Because here's where I get to do what I want to do with my life.
Yeah.
And what I want to do with my life has changed too. I was the musician and then I was a stage actor. Now I'm getting into on-camera work for the first time really seriously.
Really?
So late in life, usually people go into voice when they're late in life. But I'm going into on-camera. I'm still doing the voice, but
sure.
The path, let's see, Windsor to Vancouver to study music.
Okay.
And then I went to New York to the Playhouse. I was there for 5 years. I wasn't quite ready to jump into a big career at that point. I think I was kind of immature, kind of a kid still.
Sure.
So I ended up back in Canada in Edmonton, and where I worked a lot on stage.
Okay.
Sometimes doing musicals. Still playing the French horn on occasion, and then back to Vancouver again. And Vancouver is where I really got into the voice acting because there's a lot of American shows that are done in Vancouver.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I toured with an a cappella group for a year.
Oh, wow.
And while I was touring, I got cast in my first animated series called Vortec on Fox that, again, nobody saw. But, it did air 13 episodes. I had to hire a private plane to fly into the forest to pick me up because we were in northern British Columbia doing school shows, right? And it was just like a scene out of Northern Exposure from years ago, that show years ago.
That's right.
There's a clearing in the trees and he comes down and picks me up. And it's just the two of us flying back to Vancouver so I can do my show.
To me, that's one of the, it's a significant emotional event. My wife always says that all the time of like, a young actor who says, I'm going to hire a plane to come pick me up. I've made this commitment. I'm going to find a way to make both of these things work.
Well, I didn't make both of them work. I paid out the salaries of all the singers. I didn't make a cent on that show.
Wow.
I did it for free. All my salary went to pay them and to pay for the plane and to get back because it was my first big gig and I had to do it.
That's it.
Yeah.
That moment of making that decision of like, this is what I need to be doing. And
or I could have just said, no, I'm doing the tour. See you later.
Yeah.
And my life would have gone in a different direction.
That's
probably.
right. That's right.
Life is about paths that you come to. You make that decision which way to go. And you never know what would have happened if you went the other way.
Yeah.
But you just have to hope, jump in, leap of faith.
And have that faith in yourself. And
you only get to do interesting things in your life if you make leaps of faith. And I think a lot of people that play it safe are in quiet desperation at the end of their lives. Like, why didn't I do something with my life? You got to take risks.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's scary, but that's the only way to move forward in life.
It is. And ultimately, I know for myself, I mean, it's just been chock full of risk taking and the rewards are so much greater on that other side. And the leaps haven't been as far as they seemed. That is consistently surprising to me. Like,
you have to sort of have a sense of play so that you're having fun taking those risks.
Yeah.
It shouldn't always be scary, but also it's great when it is scary too. It's like, I've had a few gigs even in the last few years, our agent at CESD, Pat Brady, is always coming up with interesting challenges, things that I didn't, she calls me up one day. She says, how's your Klingon? And I said, it'll be great by tomorrow. What have you got? So I ended up in Star Trek Into Darkness.
Oh, yeah.
With Fred Tatasciore. Or one time she said, okay, we're going to send you to a performance capture audition for a lead. I'm like, I didn't even want to go.
Wow.
Because I thought, I don't do that. I haven't done it on camera in years. But I went and I booked it. And
wow.
The only performance capture I've ever done is a lead.
Holy cow.
Isn't that weird? What's Army of Two Devil's Cartel.
Army of Two Devil's Cartel.
Yeah, I played Rios. And you know what? I just jumped in and I did it and it worked out. And it's memorized, it's like it's on camera.
Yeah.
That's an interesting thing. Do you know, have you done performance capture?
Yes.
Have you done in the volume where there's like cameras all around you?
Yeah.
I don't know. Are they infrared? There's some sort of
kind
light,
of
light that hits little things on your face.
And they make you glow.
They make you glow. And if you're missing one, the computer knows and they come out and give you a new one.
Yeah.
But it's 205 of those. So
of the cameras? Of the little
at least on our stage.
Okay.
We were at House of Moves.
Okay.
205 of those, and then there are like 7 regular cameras. For reference, I keep hitting the microphone. Sorry, guys. Again, voiceover, when I'm doing characters, I'm using my body. I just can't move my head too much.
Right.
Other than that, you're punching. Drax is punching.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy. But yeah, every day was like, okay, can I do this? Can I do this? And you just had to make sure you find a way.
Just kind of find a way.
Believe in yourself.
That's right. I did, it was, I don't know how early it was in the motion capture world, but I did Midnight Club 3 dub edition for Rockstar Games, and I was the Detroit boss. And I mean, most of my stuff, it wasn't like in-game stuff. It was like cutscenes. All of the stuff was cutscenes. So it was kind of light duty, but it was still memorized, but we didn't have any facial reference points yet. It was all just kind of like.
Yeah, it was motion capture.
That's it.
And people don't really always understand the distinction. Performance capture is actually performed on a different stage than motion capture.
What is the distinction between those two things? I'm on the SAG committee for performance capture, so I should know.
Yeah, performance capture is when you have facial capture, facial and body, and you're acting it out, and you're saying the dialogue, and they're capturing your expressions as you speak.
Okay,
that's performance capture. Or I think performance capture could be. You could be shooting what you would think of as motion capture on a performance capture stage if the movements are really intricate.
I see.
Like if it's, Avatar or something.
Sure.
Little things going on.
Lots of
mainly means face.
Okay.
But I know on the union side, they just call it motion capture. And I always wish that they had made a distinction because it's a huge difference in what you're doing.
All right. I'll take that into consideration and bring that into our negotiations.
There you go.
What's your, all right. I'm sorry. I'm jumping ahead. So
We're jumping all over the place.
You were in Vancouver. Okay. You flew out. You got a plane and it took you out.
Yeah, back to Vancouver. Sue Blue directed.
Sue Blue.
Very famous animation director. And then we ended up doing Beast Wars a couple years later.
Oh, wow.
Did all sorts of stuff in Vancouver in those years. Did RoboCop.
Mm-hmm.
That was an interesting gig because I was just scratch. They were going to hire a celebrity. And every day I'm doing the show and I can hear in my ear the casting people in Los Angeles. Can you sound like this guy? Can you sound like this guy?
Wow.
And they were having celebrities listen in. And finally, nobody would do it for scale. So I got to keep the role. After about 7 episodes, they went, oh, okay, you're RoboCop.
What's the point? Why are we trying to bring in somebody to do it? That's awesome.
It was fine for about 3 or 4. And then I'm like, why am I still here?
Right.
I want to stay now. They replaced the person that was my main sidekick. They replaced her after 10 episodes, and then they replaced her again after 20 episodes. So poor Akiko Morrison had to come in and do 20 episodes of ADR with other actors that had already voiced it, and then also be doing the new episodes. We did 40.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, and she said, she was fantastic in the role, but some days she'd be in tears because just trying to make it work.
Oh, man, just the stress of that.
Yeah.
How often do you encounter that going back and redoing ADR on stuff that's been either reworked or changes? Is that something that happens frequently or not so much?
Depends on the studio. Marvel really cares about really the minutia quality.
I see.
So we go back and re-choreograph the fights. Some studios will just, take whatever you have and make it work.
Re-choreograph the fights in an animation?
Yeah, because the animation is done. You've guessed with a storyboard about what the sound, the different sounds you might make.
Yeah.
But they aren't exactly right. So they want them exactly right. I have gone back to do as little as, some subtle little thing, but that's Marvel. And that's why I love working for them. Because any company and really the flashes like this too, where they care that much. It makes me want to do such a great job for them. You know, because it's not just phoning it in. It's not just, oh, well, that's good enough. The early video games, there was a lot of that. Like 15 years ago.
Yeah.
It's like, that's good enough. And I never want to work that way.
Yeah.
I wasn't taught to work that way.
I agree. I feel like if I'm here and we're making this thing, let's do it right. I was a multimedia producer before I started doing this, and I had a collaborator, like my head writer and co-producer on this thing. I produced, I was in Findlay, Ohio, producing interactive training on RS Logic's programming.
No idea what that means.
Yeah.
But
it's all it's all like computer controls. Like the machine that makes this bottle has a specific language.
Sure.
And we're teaching people how to program that. And we were
that was a fine vodka you just showed me.
Thank you very much. It was a delicious vodka. It's quite tasty.
This one is too.
I love the Dasani brand. It's a really delightful vodka. Wait a second. This is water. Oh, we were lied to and ripped off.
I don't even drink vodka. We're just kidding.
But I remember rushing. I'm telling this long story to get to this point. But my producing partner said we were rushing a product out, this training piece, and he just yelled, "Dude, it's a car without doors," and making these products without that level of attention to detail and getting it right the first time and all those kind of, real blue collar, if you're going to do it right.
Well,
do it one time.
You're from near Detroit.
Yeah.
I'm from Windsor. This is blue collar.
That's right.
Where we grew up. And we learned about work ethic.
That's
right.
something,
if there's anyone out there that thinks they're coming to Hollywood to be a star or to make tons of money, no, it's about the work.
It's about the work.
If you actually even want that as a goal, you should leave, I think. If that's important to you, it's not important to me.
Yeah.
I just love that I get to actually work, doing this instead of, nothing wrong with any other work there is, but I'm much happier doing this than working on the line at Chrysler's, which I could have ended up doing.
Yeah.
Work ethic is number one. When I did RoboCop, one day there's a situation in every RoboCop incarnation where the family comes in of RoboCop, and he knows it's them, and he still cares about them deep in his robot-y mind.
Yeah.
But they think he's dead, and usually he has to save them. There's something going on. So I was spending a little extra time. Now, I'm not a one-take wonder, but I also don't need 10 takes, to get through the thing. But I was taking a little extra time because this was a little very special episode of RoboCop, so to speak.
I got you.
And then we had a guest that day. I can't swear on this show, can I?
I'm trying to keep it clean.
Let's
but
keep it.
But
no,
if you need
I can find
you can allude it.
I will keep it clean. I'll say effing. We know what that means.
Yes.
So I'm doing my work, and he looks across at me and he says, "David, it's just an effing cartoon." And I said, "Jim, it's got my effing name on it." And that kept him quiet for a while so we could finish the show. But I mean, he was actually a TV guy. And he just didn't appreciate the work that went into it.
Yeah.
He just wanted to get through it. Just wanted to make his money and go home.
Yeah.
If I'm ever just making my money and go home, and you'll hear that on the show, and they won't hire me anymore.
Yeah.
Because if you don't throw a lot of love into this, if you're not having fun, they're not having fun.
Yeah.
And it's amazing how quickly they will hear it if you're jaded. If you just phone it in from Toledo, as they say.
Yeah. Oh, man. If you don't, passion gets you, to me, when things are hard, passion is the thing that gets me over the hard. It gets me through the dry or through the desert. It's the motivating factor.
You can take whatever you're feeling and put it into the character sometimes too.
Yeah.
Yeah. If there's a way to do that, if the character has those aspects and it works really well. You never have to tell anyone why you're feeling that way. It's your own personal thing.
That's right.
But yeah, you can make a character more compelling with levels, with layers. Peel back the onion.
When did you make the transition to Los Angeles? Did they bring you down after a bit, or did you were like?
I had a manager at the time, a friend who was a manager, and he kind of forced it on me. He came down here and he set up 5 meetings for me at 5 different agencies. I had 4 TV shows on the air that were American shows. It's like, and I have U.S. citizenship because my parents are American. So he says, "Get on a plane." Like, you know what? Without that push, I wouldn't have even been
Really?
Coming down here. I'm
content just to stay up in Vancouver and work and have fun?
I was fine for that for now. I was working. So all 5 agencies wanted me, and I ended up going with SBV years and years ago. So this was the year 2000.
Okay.
1999, I did my interviews. Then 2000. Then the commercial strike came. And that was a tough time to be at a new agency as a new actor in town.
Yeah.
They ended up dropping me.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't work enough. So I ended up getting a job at a chiropractic clinic.
No kidding.
For a year. Yeah. There's a year gap in my resume. And you know what, kids? If you come here and you get a 9-to-5 job, you will not really work because you've got to find some way to devote your entire energy into what you're doing as an actor. As hard as that is, you have to find some financial way to survive.
Yeah.
And that was not a good financial way to survive and still have the energy and the time to do
if
this.
You're working at an office, how can
an agent calls you need to be at this audition at 3:00. Sorry, don't punch out till 5.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, but I found other ways to make a living for a while, and then things picked up, and then I kept going. Yeah, I thought when I got RoboCop, I've made it now.
Right.
I'll never have to worry again. I still don't say that. Things have been really steady in the last 5 years. It could all end tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just got to keep going.
Campaigns and cartoons and all that stuff have got a bad habit of just going away.
Mm-hmm.
I had that in Chicago. Like I had 3 national campaigns running, and then we moved out to Los Angeles, and literally it just stopped.
I had shows going in Vancouver when I moved down here that I could have kept going with, but they didn't really feel comfortable with me being so far away.
Huh.
You talked with Chris Cox about this, that you have to be in LA for animation or wherever it's based, but it's mainly in LA. You can't be somewhere remotely like you could with promos and commercials.
Yeah.
It's the old, it really is the old blue collar thing. They want to see your face. They want to shake your hand. They want you to show up on time. And the ensemble makes it good too, if you're all there.
Yeah.
Old radio play kind of style.
There's something about that is really encouraging and awesome. And
it's nice that technology didn't take that all away.
Yeah. It's nice that you can record a promo from Kansas City or from wherever you might live.
And today, Kiff, you gave me the option. I could have stayed home and Skyped this in.
Yeah.
But I made the effort to come and see you. This is a better show because we're sitting with each other in the studio.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And consequently, every show that you record, how many ensemble things are you typically recording an ensemble? Like when you do stuff?
Oh, yeah. For animation.
Yeah. Video game, not so much, obviously.
No, hardly ever.
Yeah.
They're trying to do it more and more, but it doesn't happen that much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Animation almost always. Well, at least the first season, then people get busy doing stuff and not everybody can show up and they pick you up, but It's best. Guardians of the Galaxy, it's 5 of us and it's about the chemistry with the 5 of us. So it works best if we're all there.
That's awesome.
You know the hardest part in Guardians of the Galaxy?
What's that?
You tell me. Do you know the show?
I know the movie.
It's the same group.
It's the same group.
So the 5 main characters. So you've got Star-Lord, Gamora,
Groot,
Drax, and Rocket. Which one of that would be the hardest one to act?
My gut tells me that either Groot or Drax, because
Groot. He's got 3 words.
Yep.
In every single script. And people go, oh, he's only got 3 words. He has to say something different with those 3 words and deal with all of the emotion and all the circumstance that we're dealing with all of our dialogue to help us with 3 words. Kevin Michael Richardson, brilliant. He can pull it off. That's the hard part.
It was that I think when the film hit too, everyone was like, Vin Diesel got the easiest job.
No, he didn't.
That guy with his instrument was able to bring so much heart to that character.
Everybody shed a tear when he said, "We are Groot."
Yeah.
At the end, he protected everybody.
Yeah.
Changed 1 word. Well, that was a big emotional thing. It's funny, dramatically, what makes people compelled to watch something or to feel something.
Yeah.
The fact that he's always saying, "I am Groot, I am Groot, I am Groot," and then "We are Groot," that he could say 1 word differently, brings a tear. This is like a very quiet version of your show, because I listened to the other episode like,
I love it. But you know what's cool is that it's the different dynamic. It's the different dynamic that every different guest comes in with, and what's so.
Because I can go that.
No, I can do it, and
but that isn't really my thing.
That's right. I'm more interested in your process and what makes you, and how that informs the character choices that you make, how that informs outside of the character choices, what it is that motivates you to get out of bed every day and go to a studio or audition for new work or go get a coffee. You
know what motivates me to get out of bed? I'm doing something that isn't soul destroying.
Yeah.
Which 98% of the planet is doing.
Yeah.
Boy, are we lucky.
Boy, are we lucky.
I will never stop saying that.
And I think the expectation that I felt. Sorry, I wish I had better chairs.
I'm going to snuggle up here and sit back. I had to sit sort of up, and it's sort of reclining and about to fall over backwards.
I actually did that last week, Monday night.
Whoa.
In a class I'm teaching at Second City. I leaned back in my chair. I fell over backwards. And I suspended. I would think I suspended.
Did it go slowly at least?
Oh man, it was horrible. And they were all I was directing my students and they were all in a line, all 8 of them. And it was like watching their faces do a slow motion like, no. But it's funny. You move your upper body, but your lower body doesn't run to go help. You're just kind of watching. And I don't think that there was anything anyone could have done. And I managed to I think I only scraped my left leg on the bottom of the chair. Didn't break any vertebrae.
Or your head, that's good.
I think I actually rolled out of the chair before it completely fell.
I had a performance once where I actually fell into the orchestra pit.
Oh, geez.
I was doing a musical. It was my own song by myself on the stage, no choreography, and I don't see very well. So they did not put enough glow tape at the end of the stage to tell me where the stage ended.
Oh my
God. I've got a follow spot on me too, so it makes it even worse.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. I'm 30 years old. I had some ballet training years ago, and it's amazing when you do ballet training that your body actually remembers that.
Huh.
And the pit was halfway up because our band was in the wings, nothing in the pit, luckily.
Yeah.
The pit was probably 5 feet down or 6 feet. Somehow I landed in a plie, for those of us that know ballet.
Yeah.
And I jumped up. And I made sure that I did it in the middle of a phrase because I kind of had a choice of when I would fall. Like I knew I was going to fall, but I could hold it for a second. and I ended up landing right on my butt.
Oh my God. Sitting.
Everything was fine. The follow spot followed me to the floor, came back up. Total accident. Most applause I've ever had in my life. They applauded me for not dying.
That's awesome.
Not breaking my legs.
I was doing a show at the Goodman in Chicago, and I had a cap on a tooth that came off in the middle of it was like set in a backyard barbecue party, and I was eating chips, and it came off in the middle of a thing.
Is it important to you to find it?
I never lost it, but I found it in my mouth, and I found a way to get rid of it.
Yeah, because you would have choked real fast on that.
Oh man, yeah. It was a temporary anyway. It wasn't a big deal, but it was still kind of like chewing chips and engaged in the conversation. And all of a sudden you go into that internal world of, oh my God, my mouth is now a gigantic place where I've lost a crunchy thing that can destroy other things in my mouth.
Well, also that's a really good point to bring up about when things go wrong on stage or in a film.
Yeah.
They're real. It's really there. Yeah. So unless the director yells cut in a film,
keep going.
Make it work. Use it.
Make it work.
And sometimes the lucky accidents are great.
You ever had any lucky accidents behind a microphone that you can recall?
Well, you can cut there. Well, you just keep going. I keep going too.
Yeah.
Because, it's better to do 4 takes than 14 takes.
Yep. Absolutely. I might as well just keep it rolling. And
if I'm playing a character that has some flexibility in what he does, if I kind of misarticulate something, I just work it into the character.
Yeah.
Yeah, then 80% of the time I get away with it. Clarity is very important in animation.
Yeah.
In video games. But, if the character has already got a wacky voice, or a distorted voice, an alien voice.
Yeah.
It gives you a lot of leeway. I'm not the most, one of the reasons I gave up French horn, I've got this big tongue. And I can't really articulate very well.
This is a small mouthpiece on a French horn.
Yeah,
like
I should have been a trombonist or a tuba.
Tuba, that's where I played, yeah.
Yeah, so occasionally I have a little trouble with articulation with characters, especially if he's supposed to be a very articulate character. So yeah, I like it when they're a little bit more diffuse, if that's the word.
Very cool.
And I can play around with it.
How do you prepare your voice for a day of Grodd, for example, or something that is going to be pretty vocally I'm assuming Grodd is vocally stressful.
Grodd is not too bad. A lot of the screaming is done with animal sounds.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Good. So you don't have to carry that freight.
The hook for that.
Good.
Vocal rest. Frank Sinatra used to not say a thing on Sundays. And I try to do the same. Like tomorrow I have a big episode for Drax, Guardians of the Galaxy. And after this interview, I'm not going to be talking much until we do the show tomorrow.
Yeah.
Because he's got a pretty clear, resonant voice. And I don't want to end up sounding like this because it won't be Drax anymore.
Right.
Although that would be a fun way to do it.
That'd be a fun way to
do the rest of this interview like this.
That's right. We talk down.
Yeah.
I just need to get a little bit closer. I can't project as well.
Yeah.
But I do the whole show as Clint Eastwood, and my Clint is a disintegrating Clint, where now everything is sort of an El Torino. Get out of my yard, you punks!
Get out of my yard, you punks!
That was like a Louis Armstrong thing, wasn't it?
Up-de-doop-de-doop-de-doo. I don't want to set the world. Yeah. I can only do that gravelly of a voice for about 4 words.
Oh man.
And then I'm going to choke.
I need to destroy my voice to be able to sustain it. And I can do Tom Waits for an evening.
Isn't that interesting that you say that? Because it's so true. Usually in a video game, if I have to scream for 4 hours, they're trying to limit it to 2 now.
Yeah.
And again, our agent's fantastic about protecting
Oh my
us.
God. Yes.
No, it's like, no, David needs to do that for 2 hours because he's going to scream his face off.
Right.
And anyway, I almost kind of like wear it down for about 10 minutes and then I get into a pocket.
Yeah.
And I can keep going without hurting myself.
It's kind of like getting your shoes wet when you go canoeing. Like you get them wet first.
Yeah. I had to learn that, I had this acid reflux thing, a little personal, but for a while, and I would come to a session already worn out. I didn't know that my doctor fixed it. Yay. He found a way. And so I don't come to a session already worn out. But, I used to have a lot of trouble with the screamy stuff because of that. But now that I've got, healthy chords again.
Yeah.
It's almost like this weird kind of like, you are kind of damaging yourself a little bit just to get into that pocket.
Yeah.
But I think I have really big, thick vocal cords, so they recover.
Huh.
Luckily.
That's great.
Yeah. There was only one thing I didn't recover from. I did, a Call of Duty role. It was Lieutenant Vasquez. It's quite a well-known role, in the Modern Warfare. And there was so much screaming and so many sessions, I actually lost my voice for 6 months.
Whoa!
I was talking like this for 6 months. I could kind of like jump into it for a session real fast for like half an hour.
Yeah.
I thought I was done.
Oh my God.
And it came back. A little gravelier than before, but it came back. And that really taught me a lesson. That
it's possible to completely blow it out.
If you listen to that role, it's balls to the wall screaming for, dozen hours. And I just learned that I can't do that.
And speaking to that work ethic, you feel like I'm going to leave it all on the court and bring everything I need to play, but you got to figure out how you can do that.
A really good way to do that is when you're auditioning, make sure you give them a compelling performance that doesn't kill you. If you give them a performance that kills you, that you can sustain, but it will hurt you, don't do it.
Yeah.
Because once they hear what they like, they're going to want it. Your audition, that's sort of saying, I can do this. I can do this for 40 episodes. Hire me.
Yeah.
And they're going to trust that you can do it. If you're at a certain level, they'll trust you.
Yeah.
I keep going around, I think of this story. It makes me think of this story. It makes me think of this story.
Love it.
I think what happens now, when you're first starting out, I think it's pretty hard to even get into character voiceover unless you're an on-camera actor now. It's really getting to that point now.
Yeah.
YouTube stars and celebrities are the guests on my shows, it seems. But I think what they do is, I think all the casting people are listening to you for about a year. They don't bring you in for anything. At least even 10 years ago, this is the way it would work anyway. And then they bring you in for one line. Then they bring you in for like 5 lines. Then they trust you enough. Like the trust has to build.
Yeah.
You can't just throw 40 episodes at someone that you don't know that well. It is a relationship business.
Yeah.
And a lot of my shows now are executive producers, showrunners that I've worked with in the past.
Yeah.
But getting that first foot in the door is always hard.
Yes.
In this town, it's a big pond.
It is a big pond, and that's encouraging to hear too. I mean, I've been real blessed to have a lot of success in commercials and in video games and lots of different other places. But the one place that I haven't yet booked something has been in animation, and it's frustrated me from time to time, but I also have a pretty good coping mechanism of being like, you know what? be patient with myself, and know that I still came to town being known as a commercial guy, and it's okay.
It took me a long time to get a regular role again after getting them in Canada. I'd get guest shots. Mm-hmm. It was only like 4 or 5 years ago, after being here 10 years,
wow,
that I started to get lead roles again.
Wow.
In animation. It's about not giving up. It's about collecting, and this sounds bad, but collecting meaning like meeting people who believe in you through your work, not through schmoozing at a party, but you do work, and then they see you that you're good at what you do, and then enough of them know you that there'll be work every couple of weeks because they'll think of you. And even if you're auditioning for it, oh yeah, let's bring Kiff in, let's bring David in.
Yeah.
But the giving up thing happens for a lot of people real fast now, I've noticed.
Real fast, really.
Real fast, faster than it used to, because it's so expensive. It's expensive to live here.
Yes.
And the soul-destroying thing, too.
Yeah.
You just have to believe in your future and not give up. And if you were willing to, it's really 10 years, I think. You know, it was the same for me. It's the same for a lot of people in a city the size of LA.
Yeah. And
I came late. You know, I came at 35.
Yeah.
When I came here, SBV said if you were 5 years older, we wouldn't be talking to you.
Wow.
Even because I had done the work I had done, it opened the door for me.
Yeah.
The American series that I'd done in Vancouver. But yeah, there's, I think I understand why now for the first time after 15 years being here, why they said that. Because it takes 10 years.
Huh.
You know, if you start as a kid here, then you may not notice it. But, you know, when you start older.
Right.
I just barely squeezed in here.
Man, I came here at 41. I've been lucky.
You have been lucky
and blessed.
You did it fast.
Yeah.
Most people don't.
You know, I've approached this thing the way I did in Detroit. And because it was a smaller market, your agent repped you for every single thing. So if a feature came to town, or you're up for a commercial, or you're up for an industrial an industrial, you know, the same agent manages all that stuff.
So they do voice as well as on camera?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have been I played with voice and I wanted to do voiceover because I'm a mimic and those kind of things. And I found work in Toledo doing, you know, on hold messaging and stuff like that. That was really where I started. But started getting paid for it anyway. And, but my agent would call up and be like, we want you on camera for this. We want you voiceover for this. And this is back in the days at least for us, it was all cold read. If you came into the office, you were never emailed a script in advance. You had no idea what was coming your way. You knew vaguely that maybe it was for Bissell vacuum cleaners. And, you know,
I'm a little older than you, and I remember the day when you'd have to go to your agent's office and it was just sitting in the door at night.
Yeah.
You know, and there was no fax, or most people didn't have fax.
Yeah.
You know, it was just at the beginning of that.
Yeah.
No cell phones either.
Oh my God.
Their voicemail was there, but
the luxury of being able to have copy the night before, to have the opportunity to get off book on something, or just to do some prep, or just to have a reference file. You know, like we want you to sound like this.
That's only been the last, you know, since 2003 or so.
Yeah.
Remember when our demos were on CDs?
I had a bunch of cassettes. They were royal blue cassettes that I had produced at Audiocom.
I had a professional stalker once. This is an interesting story, I think.
Really?
He was somebody I met at the gym when I first came here, and I'd already done some stuff that was known, so he wanted some advice, and I'm happy to give advice, and he had done a demo. Well, the thing is, back then, it was just at the tail end of the CD thing. The year 2000, it was still CDs.
Yeah.
He had made 1,000 copies of a CD. Like, at that point, and it was expensive back then.
Yeah.
No going back.
Right.
You know, now we just change the file anytime we want.
Right.
But not then. So I knew I couldn't shoot him down in a sense. I had to be encouraging. I knew that he couldn't change his demo.
Yeah.
I told him a few things. He wasn't the greatest. He needed more training. He needed to redo that demo, but there was no redoing the demo. He'd spend his money.
Right.
And then I started getting calls. Do you know this guy? This guy, I think his name was Rick. Every single agency in town was calling me. He was coming up to all of them and handing them the CD and saying, David Sobolov highly recommends me.
Jeez. And
no one will believe this is true, but I'm sitting at Vox. I'm at Vox at the time. And he came in. This is years, like 5 years later. He'd been doing it for years. And I didn't know the guy.
Yeah.
I just met him at the gym.
Yeah.
So I didn't have his number. I didn't know how to find him. And I'm sitting in the lobby, and he walked in he did the exact same shtick. David Sobolov highly recommends me, and he turned around and saw me. And I'm a big guy, but I'm a calm guy. You know, I don't hit anybody.
Yeah.
But I said, come with me. And we went to I've been away from this mic the whole time.
I hear you fine.
Yeah, come with me. And we went to the elevator. And I said, if I highly recommended you, you would be the first one to know about this. And we've never had this conversation. So I need you to stop doing that. Oh, I'm not doing anything. I said, I just saw what you did. And you're going to go down, and I'm going to stay up here. And he wanted to just keep talking to me and stuff. And I said, and you're never going to do that again, right? And I kind of cornered him a little bit because this is going on for years now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but, you know, that's another thing, too. It's like, how do you figure out the etiquette in this town when you first get here?
Yes.
There's things that you might think are right to do, but they aren't right to do. And that's the thing that's not right to do.
It's like people tell you that you've got to be aggressive or assertive and you've got to really make your da-da-da and kind of.
Well, aggressive and assertive is just following up on things. Being places on time.
Yeah.
We talked about. Doing great work. Making sure that you're not drunk for the session. You know?
Yeah.
Just being present. But yeah, it's funny seeing new people in town kind of trip over their etiquette.
Yeah,
they're kids; they don't know.
That's right.
Just to teach them.
That's right.
He was in his 30s. He should have known better.
Yes.
But anyway, don't want to end on a down.
No. That's all right.
10 minutes. So.
I want to know about I want to know a little bit more about your process. We talked at the beginning about Sandy Meisner and your training there.
Yeah, I use his key phrases in my mind, like living truthfully under given imaginary circumstances. So what are the imaginary circumstances and how do I live truthfully under them? And that's kind of the basis of everything. And another thing he says is the reality of doing. You know, it's reality. It's all reality. And it's never just a cartoon, as I've said. Yeah. It's never, any reality if I'm playing a cup on a saucer.
Yes.
What would a cup on a saucer? Well, there is no such thing as a cup on a saucer. You make it human.
Right.
You always humanize it. And then that character voice is kind of the last thing. You know, I'll do a couple of takes and then that character voice kind of slowly develops on top of it. And they're all pretty close to me. You know, unless it's an extreme characterization that they want. And I usually don't go for those.
Yeah.
Again, because they hurt my voice.
Yeah. And it's not sustainable. And then like, why are you bringing me in to do something tinny and thin when you know what David Sobolov is?
Well, luckily I have a fairly deep, resonant kind of boomy voice. So I can put a little bit of a hint of something on there and then it just seems to work. But I think the key to my, whatever success I have is the Meisner training, is that sense of reality in my characters. And I stopped really trying to force things, you know, trying to force a voice. I stopped doing voices. When I stopped doing voices, I started booking a lot more.
That's really what you're saying is like I focus on creating the character and not trying to find the voice for this character. Thing. Yeah.
You know, it's not right for everybody, but it's worked for me. It takes a long time to find out what's right for you. Sometimes if you're not booking, why aren't you booking? Why aren't you booking? And there may never be an answer to that. But sometimes there is. And that was my answer.
That's great. So I told you at the outset I like to do this thing with comic books. I brought a bunch of comics.
You can just randomize it? Just throw me anything?
Kind of randomize it.
Throw me anything.
Sure. Some of these, I don't even know what the legal ramifications are. Just grab something.
Oh, there's all sorts of legal ramifications.
That's
but
what
we're
I figured.
Not going to worry about that.
We're not going to worry about those.
I'm going to make sure I don't grab something from somebody I'm working for. Let's
Great.
See.
There's DC, which is...
Oh, they're all from someone I'm working for.
There's not inside the bag. There's some...
You know what? I'm going to do something very interesting.
Okay.
I have Catwoman here.
Yes.
What would Catwoman sound like in my voice?
Ooh.
Catwoman is a sultry person.
Yes, she is.
A little mysterious, dangerous. You think of those things. Who is she, you know? And I don't have my glasses with me, so I will maybe make up some dialogue. Let's see. Fine. Is that her? Hold on. Make sure that's her. When she's not in her Catwoman outfit, I don't know yet.
It's hard to tell.
I'll just make sure she's in her black thing here.
There you go.
She's got a Vanessa Marshall thing going, I think.
I think you're right. That smoky, warm sort of.
I have to get to 5. This is the floor. She's like, and also she's fighting. She's going up, through this broken construction site. So you have to hear that in the voice too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have to get to 5. And there's breath going on because she's exerting herself. And this is the floor. But the entry door is locked. There's no time to break it down. She's going to have that little, I can't sound like Catwoman.
But that's okay.
But she's going through this internal struggle. There's no time to break it down. But I have to break it down. That's where I saw someone trapped. She's trying to save somebody, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And now she's a Catwoman. She goes, oh, not when I can slash my way through. And then she gets to the person. Okay. You'll be okay now. There you go. That's Catwoman. David Sobolov's Catwoman.
You only hear David Sobolov do Catwoman.
It's a great
show. It's a great exercise.
It's a great exercise to do things that are completely far away, that you would never be cast in.
Yes.
I do that with my students all the time.
That's great.
Yeah, it's like you're playing the female part, or you're playing the high, crazy, wacky kid when you're got a deep, low voice.
What do you think? What's the ace you can keep that comes from an experience like that? Do you think that if you get to play, let's say for example, someone hands you Catwoman to do?
I got handed Richard Simmons in a session.
Oh my God!
And I had to just do it, and you just do it the best you can.
Yeah,
and it was kind of offensive, but I did it. It's like, stop, no, 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 oh no. And it's kind of far away from my voice.
That's right. Oh, that's great.
Well, the takeaway is just jump in and do it.
Mm.
What are you going to do? This is not a business for shy people.
Yeah.
It's not a business for people who say no. If say yes. And like I did with the opportunities I was telling you about, the things that I was a little bit apprehensive about, I did them anyway. The performance capture, and I ended up doing quite well with it.
Yeah.
The Gotta Learn Klingon by Tomorrow. I got a call from Margaret Tang on a Friday, years and years and years ago, the very first Call of Duty, 13 years ago. You got 4 pages in German on Monday. Good luck. I don't speak German. This wasn't a German accent. It was German. I brought in a coach. We went through it. And they had a guy from Activision, not behind the glass, but sitting right next to me, make sure it was actually absolutely letter perfect. And I got through it like Charo Coming to America.
Yeah.
And I keep being given these parts. It's crazy. I went to Italy to do stuff in Italian.
Oh my God.
I got flown to Italy to do stuff in Italian for Sky TV. It's like, I don't speak Italian. And they had the guy that just do the scratch. It was promo.
Yeah.
And I just remember one line, Il brivido di Sky. They were trying to pretend they were trying to like brand, Halloween, which they don't have in Italy. But anyway, my coach, he heard the Call of Duty and he said he fell off his chair laughing, because it was perfect. It was perfect German, but in an American accent. We never thought of that part.
That's hilarious. But that makes a lot of sense. You would get someone who has your vocal quality and vocal tone, but I want it saying these words. It doesn't matter. And we'll say like, my improv training has helped me realize that my choices are disposable. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I love being able to give options. I love I don't get attached to my choices. This is all this character. I prepared for hours to create this character to sound like this. Like, something else.
Yeah, they'll throw it out.
Yeah.
I can't say what show. I'm doing another big show. I'm really excited about it. It's a recurring character. We have changed the character 4 times. I am in episode 5, the 5th episode I've done of it next. We finally settled on it. I'll probably have to go back and redo the other stuff, but at least we found it.
Yeah.
But it's because they just either they couldn't really explain to me what they wanted, or they just didn't know, but they stuck with me, which I was so happy about.
Which is awesome.
Yeah. They could have just said, we'll get somebody else.
I found that
he doesn't get what's in my brain.
That's right. Yeah. He can't read my mind. Maybe the next guy can read my mind or know the sound that's in my ears or whatever. When we did, I did BioShock Infinite and trying to find the voice for Comstock was nothing like what I auditioned with, but just session after session after session of seeking.
It's why I don't go back on the iconic characters that I get to play. I don't go back and listen to anything that's happened before until well into the series. Because I don't want to be mimicking them or copying them, because they don't want that. They want something fresh usually. Unless they tell you to.
Right.
We're almost done.
Just about.
I have another story, but I didn't want to.
I want that story.
I did a voice match, my very first and only voice match. Mm-hmm. Again, I mean, in my mind, it's like, I can't do voice masters, and like You gotta remember, even at my age, say yes, say yes, say yes. Just do it.
Well, yeah.
I did Frank Langella in Noah, and it was uncredited, but when they can't get him for a couple of lines, you know, they need somebody else. And, it was like, Methuselah. It was like completely like eating the mic.
Yeah.
And for some reason it matched. And it's funny, I'm in the session. There were many sessions. I was in the session and I'm really wanting it to be perfect. And I'm peeling back the layers. And I think I'm about 4 layers away from getting it.
Yeah.
Like I knew what I had to do, but it needed a few takes. Like, oh, that's great. It sounds just like him. I can't believe it. And in my mind, I'm like going, this isn't even close, but okay.
Yeah.
Whatever works. That was an interesting story because Darren Aronofsky was trying to get the cut that he wanted.
Yeah.
And there were religious groups that were objecting to some of the content.
Yeah.
And I was playing a rock monster. I don't think there's any rock monsters in the Bible. So,
Nope.
We had to redo those scenes a lot.
I gotta tell you, I loved those rock monsters in that movie.
Did you? Og.
I loved them. I loved that idea of them. I love that it was, Noah's not my favorite film of all time by any stretch of the imagination, but I was deeply moved by a lot of the things that happened in that film.
We were doing some very, emotional work on that.
Boy.
And interesting because, boy, when they need you, right?
Yeah.
That's the big thing in Hollywood. When they don't need you, you never hear from them. When they need you, like phone rings.
Yeah.
I did a morning session at Paramount. We did it on the studio a lot. And I was going to see my sister in San Jose. And it was sort of the time where they need you so much, you got to tell them where you are 24 hours a day. They have your home phone number.
Yeah.
They don't have to always go through the agent because they need you in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So it was 8:00. I was going to go see a play in San Jose, 5 minutes to curtain. I got a call from Paramount. We need you to do some more work right now. I said, I don't know. I'm in San Jose. You knew I was going there. Can I rent a studio in the morning? No, we need it tonight. Can I watch the play? Can we do this? She said, as long as I have it by 11, fine. And I didn't even have a microphone with me. All I had was my iPad. And it's a new iPad, thankfully, with a really good microphone. And It wasn't a huge amount of dialogue. I sat on my nephew's bed and I got a session fee for it. And I recorded, and it went into the movie, apparently.
Wow.
I couldn't believe it was audio quality was good enough.
Yeah. Oh my God. Dude, the emotional content of those characters made those characters work. And, I'm a completely unexpected fan moment where I'm like, holy cow, David, your work was great in there.
I've never even known anyone that actually was excited about that movie.
I really was. The one thing there's still emotion on it for me now. The way they tell the story of creation in that film, I've never seen its equal. To illustrate the idea of a theistic, I'm Catholic, to show the idea of a theistic controlled evolution using metaphor and using the actual day, the dialogue of the day began and day ended. And then to illustrate the fall of humanity, but the way Darren cut through all the time periods to modern day. That whole sequence is just breathtaking and beautiful. And I'm thrilled that it exists.
Well, I was really, really excited to be a part of it.
Oh man. Awesome.
I never know for sure what part of it I am. When you're voice matching, you never know.
Yeah.
It's supposed to match so closely you can't tell.
I've run into that with a few, like when I did Vince Vaughn, I did Vince Vaughn in Delivery Man, and there were I did maybe 6 or 7 sessions on that picture, and there were a couple bits I was told later that when they were going through doing the ADR session with Vince, that he was like, "Why are we doing that? We have this. Let's keep going." And it was me. Oh. So that kind of stuff was nice to know.
You didn't know it wasn't him.
Yeah.
That's great.
It was a nice feeling to hear that kind of stuff. So
that's a big compliment.
I don't know. It was cool. But, I know you do coaching and teaching and stuff as well in town. Yeah.
Yeah. Various places. But mainly at, Formosa West. Okay. On the west side of town. I don't know. Go to my Twitter. It's Voloboss, my last name backwards, where I'll talk about my classes are not on regular scheduled time. So we'll do a month sometimes. Yeah. So, I think I have something coming up at Garden of Sound in December. Great. We'll see. And do you do more? Is your approach to teaching, which I've taught an intro class at Second City, is your approach to teaching
coaching diagnostic sort of stuff, or you have a variety of level of student and that kind of thing coming in? And
well, I try to do like beginning, intermediate, and advanced.
Okay.
I seem to specialize with dealing with beginners because it's great to educate them about what voice acting is to really start them out on the right path, because it's an acting class.
Yeah.
I make no distinction. You just don't have, your body to work with unless, you can work with your body, but they aren't going to see it.
Right.
There's actually a really famous, I probably can't say who it is. There's a famous celebrity in town that tried to do a video game once. Video game, and the recording is floating around town. But apparently he was very emotive with his face, and it doesn't translate. You got it. It's all in the voice. Yeah. So I talk to my students a lot about reality. I go back to the Meisner thing. If they want to do a crazy, wacky character for me, I said, go for it. If I believe it. If I don't believe it, I'm going to strip it down again. I'm going to go back to just telling me the story. And we go from there. And then we might deal with the distinctions of, different characterizations and, is this accent consistent, and just technical things.
Awesome.
There's not a ton of technical, in terms of like, sometimes there's a lot of teachers in town, who will just take your money.
Yeah.
This is an LA thing and a New York thing.
Yeah.
Probably a London thing too.
Yeah.
The actual technique of dealing with a microphone is not a huge amount of training. Yeah, like right now, I've been a little bit far away from the mic today, but you just, stay a little bit to the right, no popping peas if you can help it. There's a nice pop filter here, but
eat some apples.
And for me, it's standing is really important for the energy.
Yeah. Awesome. David, I could talk to you all day. Thank you so much for coming into the show.
Jeff.
How can people find you on social media and stuff? Are you active on Twitter and Instagram?
Volo Boss on Twitter and Instagram.
Awesome.
And that's it for me.
Awesome.
I was on Facebook, but now I just have a personal page there.
Very cool. Awesome. David Sobolov, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
You bet. This has been All Over Voiceover with Kiff VH. Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed the show, please go to iTunes and give us a positive rating. It truly helps. Follow me on Twitter @KiffVH, or on Instagram @KiffVH, or on Vero @KiffVH. Thanks so much for listening. Talk to you soon. Claim victory and depart the field.
Werewolf?
Yeah.